Wisconsin has long been known as the dairy state, being well known for its high quality and volume production in dairy items such as milk, butter, and cheese. Cheesemaking has been a big part of Wisconsin's culture and history since early European cheesemaking immigrants came to Wisconsin and found its plains and fields perfect for dairy farming about 160 years ago. Many of these traditions in the cheesemaking process are still held on to in practice today. Wisconsin is proud to say it produces some of the nation's most delicious and freshest cheeses. Wisconsin was the first state to require and still requires a licensed cheesemaker to be present in the plant during the cheese making process. Wisconsin also holds their cheese producers to a high standard, as each cheese that leaves the factory is subject to the test of a cheese grater, where the cheese is judged on flavor, body, texture, color, finish, and appearance. Cheese is a product that takes a process of steps to complete, none of which can be rushed. Today, Ben, Caleb, and I will be going to take a look at the steps involved in the cheese making process and the distribution that is still common practice for Wisconsin cheese producers. Any good cheese starts with the same ingredient, high quality milk. Wisconsin is the number 2 producer of milk in the country behind California. Milk coming to the cheese factory must first undergo a number of tests to verify the quality and purity of the milk before it can begin its journey to becoming cheese. It takes about 10 gallons of milk to make 1 gallon of cheese. The type and composition of the milk plays a big role in the type of cheese you will be making. For example, whole milk will make a creamier, more butter-like cheese, while skim or partially skim will produce a lighter, less creamy cheese. The fat content of the milk may also be altered based on the desired type of cheese to be produced. Once the milk has passed the test required of it, the milk is ready to begin its journey to become cheese and is poured into a vat. The next step in the cheese making process is called standardization. This step in the process is solely to further make sure that the milk is safe, healthy, and quality milk. In this step, the milk is weighed, heat treated if needed, or pasteurized. Both pasteurized and raw milk may be used in cheese production. If pasteurized milk is used, the milk needs to be heated to 161 degrees for up to 15 seconds to remove any pathogens that may be in it. Cheese made from raw milk needs to be cured. This process of curing the milk to get rid of the pathogens in it can take up to or maybe even more than 60 days. This step in the cheese making process ensures the safety of the milk as well as standardizing the milk used in the batch to ensure uniformity across the particular batch being produced. Once the milk has cleared the first 2 steps and gotten approval, the real cheese making process can begin. Starter cultures, which can affect the flavor and texture of the cheese, are added to the milk in the vat based on what each culture is made up of. These starter cultures are made up of good bacteria. 2 examples of these good bacteria are Streptococcus and Lactobacillus. The main function of the starter cultures are to turn the lactose in the milk into lactic acid. Acidifying the milk prepares it for the next addition that will push it along to becoming cheese. Once the milk is acidified, rennet is added to the milk. Rennet, which is a milk clotting enzyme, along with the acid now developed in the milk, cause the milk to clot, which will help to coagulate the milk to form a custard-like mass where the fat and protein and some of the whey in the milk stick together and begin to separate from the liquid in the vat. It is at this point that the cheese is ready for the next step in the process.
At this point, the cheese is much like Jell-O. The curd is then cut into small pieces to begin the process of separating the liquid whey from the milk solid curds. Cutting into curds increases the exposed surface area, providing more places for the whey to escape. The curd are cut a specific size required for style of the cheese being made. The next step, cheesemakers cook, stir the curds and whey until the desired temperature and firmness of the curd is achieved. The whey is then dried off, leaving a tightly formed curd.
Once the process of curd transformation is complete, the next step in the cheese making process is step 7, pressing. Pressing is an important step in the cheese making process because it determines the shape of the cheese, helps complete the curd formation. During pressing, cheese curds are placed into pressers, which force the remainder of the whey out of the cheese curds and presses the curd into a solid mass. This is generally a long process as most cheeses are pressed from 3 to 12 hours, depending on their size. Pressing the whey out of the cheese is an important step in the cheese making process. Whey is the liquid remaining after the milk has been curdled and strained. It is a byproduct of cheese manufacturing that is used for a variety of things. Whey is most commonly used for the production of many products used for human consumption. Common uses of whey include ricotta, whey butter, brown cheeses, as well as being used as an additive for processed foods such as bread, crackers, commercial pastry, and animal feed. Typically, excess whey byproduct is sprayed over hayfields as fertilizer for crops. After the cheese is pressed and the whey removed and used for other purposes, cheese enters step 8 of the cheese making process, curing. Curing is used to age the cheese and help the cheese develop its texture and flavor. Curing is often referred to as aging or ripening. This process involves holding the cheese in controlled environments to allow the development of microorganisms to help create the flavor of the cheese. The length of time needed for curing depends on the type of cheese being made. Typically, anywhere from 3 weeks to 2 or more years is the average amount of time needed for most cheeses. The amount of time it takes for popular cheeses such as American cheese, cheddar cheese, mozzarella, Parmesan, pepper jack, and Swiss to age varies, respectively. American cheese and cheddar cheese need 2 to 3 months to age, mozzarella requires 1 month, Parmesan requires 1 to 2 years, pepper jack roughly 1 month, and Swiss generally 3 to 4 months. Cheddar cheese, when produced medium, sharp, and aged, can require anywhere from 6 months to 7 years of aging before consumption. The actual process of curing or aging of the cheese involves a warm, moist environment with proper air circulation and oxygen-carbon dioxide exchange in order to develop. The rate of development hinges on the environment's temperature, the relative humidity, and the degree of air circulation and ventilation in combination with the appropriate range of acidity, moisture content, and salt in the cheese. Curing is one of the most important steps in the cheese making process because without it, cheese would be tasteless and wouldn't appeal to customers. The final steps in the cheese making process is packaging the cheese and shipping the cheese to storage buildings. After the cheese is cured, it is then ready to be packaged. The cheese is packaged in airtight bags where they are sealed and placed into cases. The cases are then palletized and shipped to a cold storage facility where they will be stored at a temperature of 38 degrees Fahrenheit. The cheese will then remain in storage until it is cut into smaller pieces for consumption, repackaged, and shipped to grocery stores around the country. Now you have seen the entire process that cheese must go through before it is in stores and ready to be bought by customers. Thank you for taking the time to view our video.